The 2024 Lok Sabha elections get underway. Polling begins for Phase 1 with 102 seats across 21 seats going to polls. In the largest of the 7 phases, voting will take place across all 39 Lok Sabha seats in Tamil Nadu and all 5 seats in Uttarakhand. Geopolitical worries build as reports suggest Israeli missiles have struck sites in central Iran. The potential escalation sees the gift nifty fall sharply, indicating a gap-down start for the Indian market. Crude prices surge above $90 a barrel as reports indicate an Israeli retaliatory strike in central Iran. Gold surges over 1% in early trade on rising tensions in the Middle East. Wall Street closes weak. S&P 500 corrects for the 5th straight session as it heads for its worst week in almost 6 months. Stocks in the Asia-Pacific too trade lower. Infosys reports a shocker in Q4. The IT giant misses estimates in revenue and margin, lowers guidance for the ongoing fiscal sharply, although net profit aided by other income comes above estimates. Meanwhile, strong domestic sales helped Bajaj Auto report a strong Q4. The company beats the street on all parameters, announces a dividend of 80 rupees per share. Good morning in the Mumbai News Center. I'm Sonal Bhutra. You're watching Power Breakfast. Those are the top headlines that we are tracking. But there is a developing story, and that's what's happening in West Asia. In fact, getting the latest on the tensions escalating in West Asia, Iran's FAR news agency is reporting of explosions being heard in the city of Isfahan in central Iran. Remember, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been defiant to respond to Iran's drone and missile attack that took place on Saturday. This is despite allies urging for restraint. Crude prices have suddenly jumped to $90 a barrel, and that is the breaking story. And of course, we'll keep getting you more details on that. But that is what the news reports are suggesting as far as the Iran journalisms or news outlets are concerned. And they said the explosion was heard east of Isfahan and near the Isfahan International Airport as well. They say they do not know the reason for the explosion yet, but this is what the suggestion is, and the crude prices, they have seen a spike because of this. And following these developments, we are seeing a steep fall in Asian markets and also the Nifty implied open. So let's quickly take up those indices for you. The Taiwanese index is down 3% right now. The Hang Seng is down 1.7%, and that's the case across the Asian markets. The Nikkei too is down 3% as we speak. The Kospi is down 2%. And if we look at the implied open, the gift nifty that will come up for you on the screen, it has seen a sharp fall from the highs of the day. And that one is indicating that the start for our own markets as well could be deep in the red. Around 270-point cut is what the gift nifty is suggesting right now if we go by the implied open. Let's talk about the US markets now. Wall Street ended mixed on Thursday. The S&P 500 closed lower for a 5th straight day, marking its longest losing streak since October 2023. Dow Jones added 22 points, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq dropped 0.5%. Atlanta Federal Reserve Bank President Raphael Bostic said, though is comfortable with the current policy, but is open to increasing rates if inflation moves higher. On the earnings front, Netflix reported the quarterly numbers post-market hours. The company's revenue beat street estimates, while total membership rose over 16% in the first quarter. All right, with that, let's also listen into some important opinion coming in from the US market experts on the current market outlook and the expectations of a rate cut this year.
Kind of think about the trends that have been in place for the last 2.5 years. The market has been consistently too dovish relative to what the Fed has ultimately delivered. We expected way fewer hikes on the way up than we ultimately got. We've predicted way more cuts than are going to ultimately be delivered on the way down. We've gone from almost 7 rate cuts expected at the beginning of the year to less than 2 now. And it's not just a postponement of those cuts, it's a pushing out, and it's also a flattening of what the ultimate cutting looks like.
When we came into this year, I think the markets were a bit overzealous, to say the least, about the Fed. You know, the discussion was, can they go in March, or are they going to go in March? I heard people say definitively they're going in March. You know, you had 6 or 7 rate cuts priced in. Now we're down to less than 2 cuts priced in. I think the markets tend to overshoot like they did at the beginning of the year. I think you could still overshoot a bit until you get inflation data that is, you know, gives you some sense for we're going to see core PCE, which is the Fed's metric, closer to a more stable 2.5% rate. So you can still overshoot a bit. I think managing your interest rate exposure makes some sense, but I think you're getting close to the level, pricing in. I still think the Fed would like to get 1 or 2 cuts done this year, but we need the data to help us.
Okay, all right. That is the expert opinion coming in on US markets and global markets as well. But that's the global market action. How will these overnight cues impact our own markets? We have our research team joining in to tell you what the trade setup looks like, the stocks that are likely to be in the news, and the action from the F&O space as well. Hey guys, a very good morning. Hormaz, let me come across to you first up. Doesn't look like a good day for the bulls. In fact, the sudden news that has come about.
Absolutely, and that is because of these news reports that are coming in about the tensions flaring up in West Asia. Now, ABC News is reporting that Israeli missiles have hit a site in Iran, and Iranian news agencies are also confirming that there have been some explosions that have been heard at a site there, but they have not specified the reasons behind this. And as a result, you're seeing this sharp downtick in the GIFT Nifty, down almost 300 points. The Asian markets are also sharply selling off this morning. The Dow futures are down over 400 points now as we speak, and the GIFT Nifty, there you can see a big gap down on the GIFT Nifty as of now, almost 300 points. But the week as of yet has also not been a very good one for the markets anyway, because the Nifty and the Bank Nifty both are down between 2 to 3% already this week, this truncated week. And the heavyweight contributors on the Nifty are continuously selling off through the week. And even yesterday's session, if you can pull up the contributors as well, you would see all heavyweight banks, HDFC, ICICI, Axis Bank, all of them selling off heavily, including ITC. And another reason behind this fall has been the institutional selling that has come about in this truncated week. FIIs have been net sellers through and through this April series, and the last 3 sessions have almost cumulatively seen FIIs selling nearly 11,000 crores in the cash market. The other factor that was supposed to put more pressure on the markets, though, was the Infosys results that came in yesterday, which were sharply below estimates. The ADR at one point was down almost 8%, but it recovered to end 2.5%-ish lower, but that might add some pressure to the market. The other key factor today is that the first phase of the Lok Sabha polls have commenced, and the 102 constituencies have begun polling. Earnings today include the likes of Wipro, Jio Financials and HDFC AMC. The handover from Wall Street was okay, but as of now, the Dow futures are extremely weak, and the Fed officials are also continuing to dampen rate cut prospects. So headwinds all around, and a big gap down likely for the Nifty this morning.
That's right. Thank you so much for all those cues, Hormaz. But a lot of stocks that will be on our radar. Vamakshi has that list. Good morning, Vamakshi.
Well, good morning, Sonal. Let me first start off with Bajaj Auto. A good set of numbers is what the company has reported this time around. Revenue was higher than what we were expecting at 11,485 crores. Margins were also better at 20.1%, and net profit came in higher as compared to our poll at 1,936 crores. Now, Infosys is the other counter that we will be watching out for. The company reported a constant currency revenue downtick of 2.2% on a sequential basis as compared to our poll of 0.5% fall. Revenue as well as margin came in below what we were expecting, and net profit, however, was higher than the poll. ITC's arm, ITC Infotech, will be acquiring nearly 100% share capital of BlazeClan Technologies for 485 crores. Concord has signed an MOU with PSA Mesa Supply Chain to offer seamless logistics services to customers. Watch out for Mahindra Lifespace as well, because the company has sold homes worth almost 350 crores in 2 days at Mahindra Zen. Federal Bank has received the RBI's approval to establish a representative office in Saudi Arabia. RVNL also on our radar. They've signed an MOU with Tumas India for partnership as well as collaboration in public transport projects and infra projects in India. HUDCO has been granted the Navratna status. Gokaldas is looking to raise funds via QIP. The QIP opens today, floor price at nearly 790 rupees per share, and they're seeking to raise up to nearly 600 crores. Landmark Cars in its Q4 update reported a jump of almost 8.2% in its revenue. And lastly, let's also focus in on Axis Bank. A board meeting is scheduled to happen on April 24th, wherein the bank will be considering fundraising proposal.
Okay, that is a long list, but looks like the focus will be on markets today. Thank you so much, Vamakshi, for joining us. Let's talk about all the cues from the F&O space. Manglam is joining us now. Manglam, take it away.
Well, it's all about the surprising declines that we see, right? In yesterday's trading session as well, somewhere around 1:30, we saw a big decline. It was a sudden fall in the markets. And that's not all. You know, weekly expiry deepened the cut further in the last 30 minutes of trade. And at the same time, the Nifty is down almost 800 points from its record high. Importantly, this morning, we're, getting news about flaring tensions in the West Asian region. And as a result of which, the GIFT Nifty indicating a 300-point downtick. That implies that in this week itself, we'll see an 1100-point downtick on the Nifty. It is reflected in the volatility index as well. The VIX spiked past about 13, but important to watch out for where it goes because, all of this is clubbed with a couple of things. One, weak results from IT heavy majors like Infosys yesterday. The FIs selling in cash market, the last 3 trading sessions has been 11,000 crores. But if you look at the way the FIs have been selling lock, stock and barrel in index futures as well, in yesterday's trading session, they sold a whopping 7,000 crores in index futures. That's, taking the last 4 trading sessions selling of FIIs in index futures to the tune of almost 17,000 crores. So $2 billion worth selling in index futures. The FIs unwound nearly 26,000 longs, added close to 44,000 shorts. And the net shorts for the FIIs, there you see it, are at 1 lakh contracts. That's the highest that we've seen in the last many series. The FII short exposure now stands at 68% and the long exposure falls to 32%. With all this bad news, the question is, can the market bottom out at these levels or not? Is the big question. The Nifty likely to open around the 100-day moving average. The 22,000 put is extremely active, but today, this opening, we'll see unwinding out there.
Okay, those levels very important to watch. Thank you so much, Mangalam, for joining us, making sense of what's happening in the F&O space. With that, we'll slip into a break. When we come back, the first phase of 2024 elections begins today. We'll get you more on this when we return. The 2024 election is finally underway. 102 seats across 21 states are going to polls. In the largest of the 7 phases, voting will take place across all 39 Lok Sabha seats in Tamil Nadu and all 5 seats in Uttarakhand. Shireen is here to tell us all the key issues and battles and constituencies to track as voting gets underway.
The Lok Sabha elections are set to kick off Friday. 102 constituencies across 21 states and union territories will vote in the first phase of the 7-phase elections. More than 1,600 candidates are in the fray. The entire northeast, barring Assam and 1 seat in Tripura, are in phase 1. Western UP, 3 seats in Bengal, 4 seats in Maharashtra, all the 5 seats in Uttarakhand will also head to the polls this Friday. The main battleground will be Tamil Nadu, where all 39 seats go to the polls. Prime Minister Modi has visited the state 8 times in the run-up to the elections as the BJP unleashed a campaign blitz. But the DMK government and the India Alliance are not too perturbed, remain confident of sweeping the state. Tamil Nadu's Coimbatore constituency is proving to be a key battleground for the DMK, the AIADMK and the BJP. In this industrial town, economic revival is the key talking point. The BJP has high hopes from Coimbatore and its state unit president Annamalai is hoping to challenge the incumbents. Coimbatore to Muzaffarnagar in western UP, which is also voting in the first phase. The city largely relies on agriculture and the BJP is promising more infrastructure development to drum up support and beat anti-incumbency. But will it work? 3 constituencies in West Bengal go to the polls on Friday. Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has never shied away from taking the BJP and Prime Minister Modi head-on. But for the first time in the 2019 general elections, BJP's tally in the state rose to 18 seats. Can the TMC fight back? Or will the BJP expand its footprint? Welfare schemes have proved to be efficient and powerful vehicles to attract voters in the past, and the TMC in West Bengal has tasted this success. In 2021, it launched the Lokhir Bhandar scheme, which promised a monthly cash transfer to women, and the scheme is considered to have been a big factor in returning Mamata Banerjee to power in the last assembly elections. But will the scheme continue to work its magic? And finally, Jammu and Kashmir's Udhampur will vote in the first phase of the elections. Infrastructure and education, the 2 big areas that the central government has been pushing in the Jammu region ahead of elections. A new IIT, IIM and AIMS have been built in the city, and the Prime Minister on his recent visit to Jammu announced infrastructure projects worth 32,000 crores.
Thank you so much, Shireen, for joining us with that detail. And of course, you can tune into CNBC TV 18 for all the election action as well. We'll slip into a break. Up next, we get you the cues from commodities markets, so stay tuned for that. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. Well, we've been talking about those, the explosions that have taken place in Iran. So let's go across to Manisha Gupta. She's joining us with all the update from the commodity space. Manisha, what's happening there?
Well, yes, there are various unconfirmed reports, and but yes, there are more and more officials now who seem to be confirming these missiles that have hit Iran. There also are reports that there could be some more that have happened in Syria and in Iraq as well, and that clearly seems to be taking the prices higher. So you have the crude oil prices, which has gained up by 3% to a 3-week highs. We have seen prices gain up also when it comes to natural gas quite sharply. Gold is gained up by 1.5%, and we are very close to those all-time highs. The tangible commodities seem getting bought into. So whether it's copper, nickel, zinc, you're looking at all of these tangible commodities on the higher side. One is the supply disruption. The second is that the devastation that it leads to will mean that you will need rebuilding into a lot of things. And then there is safe haven buying. So the tangible commodities seem to be doing quite well, while you have seen a sell-off happen in various other currencies and asset classes.
Okay, all right. So commodity markets in focus, crude oil prices spiked, gold has spiked. Thank you so much, Manisha, for getting us up to speed with what's happening there. Let's now shift focus to some post-market earnings. IT major Infosys reported a weak set of fourth-quarter earnings with revenue and margins both missing street estimates. Reema Tendulkar is joining us now to get us up to speed with the earnings fine print and the guidance as well. Reema.
Thanks so much for that. So let me first start with the stock movement. Infosys ADR was down 4.5% yesterday. And in our own markets this week, Infi has lost 4.5%. And since Accenture came out with the numbers, the stock has corrected close to about 15%. Now on to Q4 numbers. It's a miss. It's an all-round miss and a big miss, both on revenues and on margins. The company has reported a revenue decline of 2.2% versus consensus expectations of 0.5%. Margins too, versus expectation of a margin expansion of 20 basis points, margins have contracted by 40 basis points. The reason for the miss in Q4, one, discretionary slowdown continues to remain the key point, and two, there was a one-time restructuring of a BFSI client which impacted the revenue and margins negatively by 100 basis points. But Q4 is done. The problem is the FY25 outlook is also not baking in any kind of improvement. The company is guiding for a 1 to 3% revenue growth in FY25, much lower than consensus expectations of 3 to 5%. On margins, they're staying the course, maintaining it at 20 to 22%. And just to put Infi's growth numbers in context, they're talking about a 1 to 3% revenue growth. What did TCS tell us? TCS said that FY25 will be better than FY24, which is 3.4%. So there is going to be, so probably TCS for the second year in a row will perform better than Infosys. There's also another question that analysts are asking now. Is the Infi guidance being a bit conservative now? Because deal wins in FY24 were very strong. 80% jump in their deal wins. They will start ramping up and contributing to growth. And if discretionary spends come back, there is a possibility of a positive surprise. Also, in the medium term, while the company for FY24-5 has maintained the margin guidance, they are talking about margin expansion over the medium term. Back to you.
Okay, all right. So that's about Infosys. In fact, let's stay with those numbers. The CEO, Salil Parekh, while addressing a press conference, spoke about the company's outlook for FY25. Take a listen.
The environment in terms of discretionary and digital work is similar to what we've ended in this year. We also had good traction in large deals, some of which will flow through in the next year, given the duration of those deals. Keeping that in mind, our growth guidance for next year is as a band higher than where we finished for this year. We see, for example, financial services to see a better outlook in the next year compared to the past year. We see, for example, manufacturing, which will have, while it'll still grow next year, will have a slightly slower growth than this year.
Okay, that's about Infosys. Let's talk about the first set of numbers that we have gotten from the Auto Pack. Bajaj Auto reported a strong set of fourth quarter number. Sudarshan is joining us with the key highlights. Sudarshan, what did the numbers look like?
Morning, so it's the first company from auto segment to report numbers, and the numbers are better than estimates, and even year on year there is a healthy improvement in overall numbers. So talking about Q4 numbers, revenue has increased 34% and margin has come in nearly 100 bips higher at more than 20%. Even profit has seen a growth of 35% year on year, and margin improvement can be attributed to dollar realization, operating leverage, and favorable product mix on premiumization. In the analyst call, talking about the outlook for FY25, company says it expects two-wheeler industry growth of 7 to 8% and expects premium segment to outgrow this, and which implies market share gains for the company. On two-wheeler electric vehicles, company is looking to ramp up distribution to 600 stores in next 6 months from the current number of 200. Lastly, talking about FY24 numbers, revenue was up 24% and profit has increased 32% year on year.
Thank you so much for that analysis, Sudarshan. In fact, we'll be joined by Bajaj Auto's ED Rakesh Sharma at 9:30 a.m. to discuss the earnings, the outlook and more. So do stay tuned into CNBC TV 18 for that conversation. Okay, that is what is happening with the conversation that is slated ahead with Bajaj Auto. But as I said, let's quickly take a look at the Asian markets right now. Largely lower. We have the Taiwanese index, which is down 3%. The Hang Seng has recovered actually from the lows. But apart from that, most of the Asian markets, they are absolutely lower. And the GIFT Nifty, that will come up for you on the screen. And that one is indicating an implied open in the red, 336 points lower. So it's going to be a day in the red on the Lal Street. With that, we'll take your leave on this edition of Power Breakfast. But do stay tuned. Bazaar Morning Call comes up next.